but we don't necessarily think about it in just in terms of resource. Go ahead and advance. So here's the problem. Cycle of socialization. It's 100% real. You can be in denial about it if you want. You are not an independent thinker. I don't care what anybody tells you. You did not come up with the concept of purple. You didn't come up with the concept of a fade. You didn't come up with the concept of a good cognac goes together real nice with a cigar. You didn't come up with none of it. All of it you learned from somebody else. Right. Somebody else told you that time exists. It's a lie, but they told you that, so we believe it. Okay? You got to come to understand this because we are born into a world as tabula rasa. We are born into a world with the only thing that most of you can possibly understand is with original sin. That's all you come into this world with, right? So where's the rest of it come from?
Media.
Environmental. What's your name? You sure? Okay, how do you know? So that's what she told you.
Look.
Okay.
His mama named Clay. I'm calling Clay.
Okay. But the bottom line is, you weren't there when she gave you that name. You certainly weren't cognizant of what was going on. When were you born? How you know? How did calendar tell you? So again, somebody told you. So my last name, Callahan. Now I come by the name honestly. I'm gonna tell you how I know. This is how I know. Unfortunately, a white man married into our family. Because on my daddy's side, we got two sides. We got the slave side from Alabama. And we got an old Irish man who came over here and wanted to lay with them pretty light-skinned women. And so he actually married her. But I say I come by it honestly. Everybody in my family name is Callahan. 80% of them ain't Callahans. You ain't come from Jim Callahan. Grandma was making it happen. She was keeping a roof over somebody's head. But you are not a Callahan. But they birth certificate say Callahan. Everybody in the neighborhood call him Callahan. No, you're a Reed, sir. See, that DNA be tricking y'all up. You be careful with your DNA. Not only will you send your cousin to jail, but you also might find out you ain't a Reed. My argument is, y'all children of God, number one. Number two, if you look at biology, you're all going to come from the same Genesis. Whether you call that person Lucy, whether you call that person Eve, I don't care who you call it. Black people are the original people. So you're all related anyway. So if you're going to trip because Uncle Joe is really your daddy, okay. It happens. But it's important. What happens is once we're born into this world and they start to shape you, they start telling you, little boys don't cry. They start telling you, running backs are always going to be a position of glory. Right? Not only do they tell you, now they start punishing you when you don't do it. They start punishing you. Go ahead and look a little different. I promise you, all of your best childhood memories of dealing with other men is when something's wrong with you. Look at Fat Willie. That sleepy eye. Y'all so used to it, y'all don't even understand bullying that happened today. What you mean? They said something to you? What you mean? Don't worry about it. It's like sticks and stones. Put hands on them. Okay. Bottom line is, somebody is punishing you for not being their idea of what you should be. So when we start talking about racism, you have to understand the real consequences of not being thought of as a man. And what that means to you, and how that shapes your life, and how it shaped your grandfather's life, and your grandfather's lives before them. And why things that are not pertinent to your immediate survival are things that we want to engage in. Because you're being punished if you don't do it. Everybody know Miss Cutie Janie from the neighborhood when you was coming up? Pretty girl? Okay. You better have some money in your pocket. You better have some game. You better have the new roller skates or whatever it was. That's punishment. That's somebody saying your value is less, or your value is only in what you can provide. That's the trick bag with men. Now you become a candy machine. Your only value is what you can give to somebody. That's where we get socialized. And then what happens? You turn around and you start doing the same thing to your youth. You start shaping our young men the same way. Let's get into it. Now, you go ahead and advance. I'm with you now. I'm with you. Here's where all of this comes up and it becomes a problem. So by the time you get socialized, by the time you deal with all these issues, now when it's time to say, hey, I think I might need a little bit of help. There are 3 areas that we fall down in looking at psychological service and even considering getting psychological help. One of them is perception, the other is action, and the third is service. So here are the things that marginalize us, that stop us from getting good help and good service when we need it. Number 1, mistrust towards the medical and health systems. We don't trust them. We don't trust that it actually works. We don't trust medicine in general. We definitely don't trust that person who may be of a lighter hue, because somebody gonna say Tuskegee and we're gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna keep it rolling. Misperceptions. I don't need help. I'm not weak. I'm not crazy. Don't need no help. I'm good. The stigma. You talking to somebody? What you talking to somebody for? What you snitching? No, I'm talking to a therapist, man. A therapist? What you talking to a therapist for? You all right? What's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. We still do it to each other. Yeah. Here's the problem. We even do it in here. I'm not mad at you. Pastor can talk to you. Pastor can do some things. Pastor can pray for you. Just like Big Mama can pray for you. They can do some things. Your brother can support you. But sometimes your problem needs a different tool. And sometimes we make you feel less. I'm not saying they do it here, but I heard there was a church over there that somebody said it's the spirits in you, as opposed to, bruh, I got some things going on. I got some things going on. Let's look at the second part, the actions. What are the things that we do? We don't recognize that we need service. The misrepresentation of being weak. We have a false identity of masculinity. Self-medication. You heard me say this before. We self-medicate in a ways, when you're in denial about the struggle in the world that you live into, all types of self-medication takes place. Somebody will say alcohol, I know it. Yep. Somebody will say drugs, I know it. Somebody, pastor gonna say women, he know better. But are you gonna say gambling? Are you gonna say smoking? Are you gonna say spending money? Are you gonna say being out on that lake? There's plenty of people like, look, man, this is the only piece I'm gonna get. I'm out on the lake and I'm going for 3 days. Don't look for me, don't ask for me, I'm gone. You don't let that man get to that lake, it might be a problem. The problem is, what are you neglecting while you're on that lake? Right? These are the things that we have to talk about in those negative coping skills that we'll get into just a little bit. The problem, the other issue is the service, the actual service. There's not always good practice out there. There's not always great therapists out there. There are people that look like me, if you're looking for that. Not to say that somebody who doesn't look like me can't help you, but it's a reality. The amount of people that actually need service, there are not enough people to cover. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Now, you go to your neighborhood, they got a fish shop for you. They got a barber shop for you. They got 150 churches for you, right? They got a gun store for you. Show me where the therapist's office is at. I'm just telling you the truth. It don't exist. And then you better have insurance. If not, you better, you might won't need that extra job. Go ahead and advance. So those are the three areas that culminate this difficulty. Then we don't understand what mental illness is. We'll take you through it real fast, and then I'm going to give you the slice just for fish. Just for fish so you can feel like you got it. So again, mental health is just your ability to live. It is just the way that you are able to enjoy and cope life. I want you to understand it just that simple. Your ability to cope, your ability to live life is just that simple. That's wellness. Stressors, all types of stressors. Anything can stop you from enjoying life. Anything can stop you from being able to interact in your society and your environment. It's not hard. If you got a bad kid, that's a stressor. That's something that's going to create a stress in your life. If you get fired, I'm going to say this just because you got that blue on. If you are alpha, it's going to create stress in your life. I generally don't do that for those very specific reasons. But since you're in here profiling, here's the problem. How do you know when a stressor is no longer a stressor? How do you know when it's something more? How do you know? How do you know? You socializing, you drinking, you over drinking, you an alcoholic, you a drunk. What's the difference? How do you know?
When you can't go without it, when it's a thing where you can't go without having that thing, then there's a problem.
Okay, so you want to talk about addiction. So anytime you're addicted to anything, it's a problem because what is it a problem? Because it's causing you to not actually live your life. So if I got to go down, trust and believe, I grew up in that area. If you can't come home without stopping past the package store, you got a problem. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. I gotta go get packets. I gotta get the squares. My grandfather packed 3 times. It's a problem for everybody. It's a problem for everybody. Okay, he ended up dying of black lung, partially from being in the coal mines, but having emphysema, that wasn't gonna work out well with you, and you smoking unfiltered Camels. But he did it his entire life. He got off the alcohol, but he couldn't kick the cigarettes. He was smoking cigarettes when he was on oxygen. Okay? But what is actual mental illness? Actual mental illness is very simple. It's very simple. It's just a condition that allows you or interrupts your ability to live life. Your ability to act. It's nothing more than that. Just like diabetes interrupts your processes in regulating your sugar, mental illness is just a process that interferes with you living your life. It's nothing more than that. Well, I'm going to talk about some of the terms just so that you will have heard about them. Go ahead and advance the slide. But it's just that. We make it more than it has to be because we want to put judgment on it. We want to put judgment on it. How many people fat by somebody else's fault? Okay? We want to judge.
It's somebody else's fault.
We want to judge. Wife might cook good, I don't know. You might be eating candy, I don't know. Here's the thing that you need to understand about mental disorders, just for you, Fish. So you have mood disorders. Those are just disruptions in your mood, your inability to regulate. Just so that you've heard it. When people talk about having depression, it is a mood disorder. It's affect. It's how they feel. They're real things. Trust and believe. Menopause is a real thing. It's a real thing. And they lose their mind because their hormone regulation is off. It's a real thing. You have to understand that these are real things. They vacillate anyway. How many of us think women are irrational? Sometimes. At the end of the day, They have a different chemical, hormonal balance, and they're socialized differently. And society has told them that they have a different role. Society has not told you to be a nurturer. You're a procurer. I get things and give people things. She got to nurture. So their emotional regulation is different, but I'm just trying to get you to understand it's different. Anxiety is real. It's real, it's real, it's real. First of all, if somebody pulls a gun on you, you should be nervous. If you're not nervous, you have an issue. Right? Now imagine if somebody can't turn that off. Imagine if anytime something happens, they have that same level. It's not just the brothers in the military. It's firemen. It's police officers. It's people that are under stress. It's just somebody who's been trying to be a good husband, a good father. I can't take it no more. That's when they say people snap. You cannot snap if there's no stress. How many times have you said to yourself in the private moments, not another thing? That's real for some people. It just is. There's nothing they can do about it. They're going to need some help to regulate that. Personality disorder, this is where you start to get into what you see on TV. This is where you start to get in borderline personality, antisocial personalities. It's a real thing. Everybody got the same morals. I'm just telling you that off the rip. But there are people who can't control it. It's just a real thing. If you ever run across somebody who is truly a psychotic or truly someone, go to prison. You run across people, it's a different type of morality. What do you mean you stab somebody over a French fry? Yeah. Okay. That's what a sociopath looks like. That's how they, and it's your fault. I give you a good example. My uncle, Cleophas Washington, he robbed me. I said, yo, it's me. He said, I had to get you. You were slipping. He felt like it was my fault. I was slipping. I got robbed by my own uncle. Okay, it happens. Different people think in different ways. So eating disorders, those are pretty self-explanatory. Traumatic, you gotta understand trauma. Trauma can come from not just somebody shooting at you, just stress. Trauma can come from losing somebody. Trauma can come from something you have not made well with yourself. Trauma is a setup. What if you become a police officer to serve and protect, and all of a sudden, you trying to help somebody, and somebody die. All of a sudden, they want to have an issue with you. You don't think that's going to be stressful for you? You don't think that's enough to break somebody? Trust and believe it is. Behavioral and emotional, that's where it starts to get tricky, because that's where we get thrown in that trick bag. But somebody said, sir, you're out of line. You're so aggressive. What do you mean I'm aggressive? All I did was walk into the building. You the one grabbing your purse. Ah! I gotta get off the elevator. What did I do? I'm black. I've been over 6'2" the majority of my life. Trust and believe. All day. Oh no, I'm good. No sir, no problem. Ain't nobody getting on the elevator with me. Okay. You don't think that can affect you? That's just other people identifying who you are. That ain't got nothing to do with you. But those labels, go ahead and advance. I still ain't seen aging.
B-Lou gonna be second. He'd be after you.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. Quick Wellness 101. It's not a luxury. You can't take it for granted. Brother, if you pray, somebody gonna tell you, if you don't appreciate it, you'll never be happy. You got to learn to appreciate. If you sit back and focus on what you do have, you spend a lot less time worrying about what you don't. It's just what it is. It's just in your head. Who told you Mercedes was a good car? Who told you Mercedes made you special? Who told you? Who told you that? Prove it to me. If you own a Mercedes, you're not that bright anyway. She'll be leased it or sell it to somebody else. Unless your last name Mercedes. Is your last name Mercedes? Because I trust and believe. Mercedes, Lamborghini, they just people's names. It's just the people making the money. I'd rather it be Allen. I'm wearing an Allen. You know, I just would prefer that it was that way. I'm being so honest with you. I wish we only wore things that were reflective of us, but we're not socialized to think that way. Think about this. Who in here got a wife again? Can I walk up on her and put my hand on her butt? Okay, so how much time you got? Yeah, I can try it. This will be a problem. Right? So you don't want nobody, you don't want nobody stamping and touching and marking your wife, but what do? We turn around, we stamp and mark ourselves with everything else. All these other products, all these other people, we marking ourselves, and we feel good about it. It's a trick bag. It's a trick bag. I promise you. So, wellness is important. You got to think about it. John 10:10 tells us, I came that they may have life more abundantly. How are you going to have life more abundantly? How are you going to use the gift of life? Do you know how many people are not here? I ain't even talking about just the people who are no longer here. What about the people who never were? Y'all know a little biology. 1 million sperm every time you ejaculate. Don't mean you get pregnant. Most of y'all slipped up. Y'all got some henny babies in here. Raise your hand if you got some henny babies. No? Oh, it's crown? If you really believe that existence was that important, if you really believe that your life is a blessing, learn to appreciate and treat it as such. Stop living your life in ways that are not helpful for you. Go ahead and advance. So, this is something I want you to take away. I like to try to keep it simple. If you ever want to figure out if somebody is struggling or has an issue, make it easy on yourself. If a person presents with any thinking, that's how they think about themselves. Emotion, that's how they feel about themselves. Or behavior that compromises them, that may be detrimental to their ability to live, just simply be alive, to understand, self-manage, or problem solve. Make appropriate life connections. It sounds like a lot, but here's the thing. It ain't that hard. If smoking is making you cough, it's a problem. If eating means that you can't make it up the stairs without, it's a problem. If you got to put your hands on anybody because you're angry, it's a problem. It's a disruption. We gonna do it. Wait till we get to the last sheet. I wish you would. Oh, that's us. That's us. You about to throw your whole life away? Not the baby blues. I know you didn't just disrespect me like that. How many different ways can you disrespect a black man? It's unlimited. You looked at me too long. You didn't look at me. You didn't say hello. You did say hello. Who are you talking to? Why you walk by me? Who are you looking at? That's my wife. She's your wife, but oh, now that's a problem. She gave it up. Why you mad at him? You can assault a black black man in a multitude of different ways because of the way that we are built. Because when you are operating from a deficit model, everything is an insult. But when you're operating from a position of abundance, when you know who you are, bro, I don't care what house you live in. Congratulations, my brother. That's a beautiful house, and I'm glad you got it. Beautiful. I live in this trailer right here, and I stay warm. And it's good. I'm putting money away. Okay. Bro, ooh, you got that good hair. Boy, you're so light-skinned, got that wavy hair. Oh, Lord Jesus, did you just say that? You got that good hair? You see what I'm saying? You understand. You understand. When you sit back and say, no, I got hair, I don't got hair, it is what it is. It doesn't move me one way or the other. That's you being in charge of your life. So anything that disrupts you from doing that, you are minimizing your life. Answer slide. What you doing up here, Fish? What you looking for? Oh, okay. So here's a couple of things that you should be aware of, just so that you have some things. People can present with a wide range of difficulties in functioning. People who self-isolate. I'm telling you, when you have to be away from people, there's no quality time, one-on-one time, I mean, private time, that's good. But when you have to have your one-on-one time, your away time, that might be symptomatic. When you like, no, I'm gonna go down to the man cave and I'm gonna come up on Thursday, you might have something going on. So if you see somebody who's isolated, it could be an issue. The avoidance of specific people or situations. A lot of times things have happened and we're unaware of it. We're unaware of it. If your child all of a sudden don't want to deal with your uncle no more, might be an issue. Might be an issue. Some might put it on. All of a sudden they scared of the babysitter, might be a problem. Abrupt news changes in mood and affect. This is blackmail. We think we can go from 0 to 100. You can. You can because that's what we do, but it's a problem. But we so used to, I promise you, all I got to do, I don't care how old you are, boy, if I come at you, click. Instead of saying, bro, I got an issue. You okay, bro? It's the quickest way to disarm somebody. Are you okay? They start talking crazy to you. Yeah, I'm okay. You okay? I was concerned. I'm good. Are you good? I'm trying to let you know our triggers that get us in trouble. So again, loss of interest in enjoyed activities, overwhelming fear, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, and helplessness. It gets tricky. There's many times when we don't feel valuable. We have to be careful how long we sit in that space. You got to be careful. Because why don't you feel valuable? I promise you, somebody gonna lose a job and all of a sudden they don't feel valuable. Your job never made you. It never was the job. Your ability to provide is not who you are. It's not who you are. I hate to bust your bubble, but that's not who you are. You're a human being, okay? Don't let these things get in a rate. Sleep patterns, disruption of sleep pattern, somebody's up, somebody's down, issues, fatigue, difficulty. Anytime you have difficulty relating or orienting to reality is a problem. Go ahead and advance the slide. So, I'm gonna give you this real fast. I call them courageous conversations. If you ever see somebody presenting with these symptoms, or you ever see yourself presenting with these sorts of symptoms, you need to have a conversation. You need to talk to them. You need to ask them what's going on. Here's the reason why. This can only be one or two things that can happen. They can get mad at you, and that's the cost. Who are you? Why are you checking me? Why are you in my business? Okay, that can potentially happen. Love is the answer. Because I'm loved and I'm concerned, I'm just checking in on you. My bad. You good? I'm good. But what's the consequence of not checking in with them? It happens every day. They call it a suicide by police. It's suicide. We've been doing it forever. If you done drank yourself into a coma, what is that? Suicide. If you done ran down to Pookie's bar and got into another bar fight and killed somebody, what is that? Suicide. If you done went home and you done choked out your old woman, and now the police after you, and you do what? Suicide. If you done over leverage yourself financially, now you're stealing money, now you're in a Ponzi scheme, you know they coming for you at some point in time, now you done lost your house. What is that? Suicide. You're destroying yourself. These are the things that why there's a cost. Go ahead and advance the slide. So, if you ever need help, 988 is a number that you can refer anybody to. In emergency situations, you already know about 911. 988 is specifically around somebody who's in crisis. I just put that up there because we identified some issues. Go ahead and advance the slide. I'm gonna do this real fast. Y'all keep saying it. Somebody read it from the pastor. As a man thinketh, do you believe it? I promise you it's true. Psychology is going to teach you that the way you think is going to dictate the way you feel. If you think you're a king, you're going to feel like a king. If you think you're a loser, you're going to feel like a loser. The problem is the way you feel is going to dictate your behavior. I can't tell you that somebody walking in front of you or cutting through your yard is not disrespectful. But I can tell you it's not worth dying for. So if I cut through your yard and you feel like you've been disrespected and you ain't gonna be disrespected, so you gotta put your hands on somebody, you got to speak to somebody in some kind of harsh tone, how are you in control? You're not in control of yourself. You're making yourself vulnerable. Man, you got the best looking wife on the block. It's easy to set you up. I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna say something, man, she's fine. What'd you say? Bam, he came at me. Justifiable homicide. You saw him? Now I got your wife to go. Because you're not in control of yourself. We're not thinking about life consequences in realistic terms. Nothing is worth your life. So when we start talking about how can disrespect, I'm disrespecting you. I'm disrespecting you. I don't like you, don't care about you. You ain't nothing. What just changed in your life? So why do you care? Let's hope that's true. But ultimately, we do care if it allows us to make negative decisions. Go ahead and advance. I want you to look at this. These are some of the topics that we have gone over. I'm going to give you 5 minutes so they can ask some questions about this topic, and then we got an exercise. Yes, sir. Okay. I was early. So, we talked about mental health, perceptions of mental health and illness, masculinity, patriarchy we touched on, but we can go a little bit different. Patriarchy is just as insidious as racism. Because we put women in places that is not natural for them. It's not natural for you, but you want to operate as if it is. Having range of emotions, having expressions, what does mental illness look like? Any of those things that you should be able to read all of that up there. Sigma man, if you're not familiar with the concept, you may have heard of alphas, you may have heard of betas. They're all made up and none of it's real. If somebody tells you they're alpha because I'm in charge, it's a delusion and you're just telling yourself that. If somebody says you're a beta and you're a bottom and you're weak, it's made up, it's not real. A Sigma is supposed to be a man who is across all domains balanced. Questions, comments, and concerns about anything up there, or questions that you've jotted things down about any of the topics that we've covered thus far? Okay, I see that. Touch on the patriarchy.
I got a whole lot of words. One, when you talk about value, like you said, what do you define as that value yourself? And also, when you talk about problems, and you try to talk about people, try to open up to people, you'll have either they try to put their their problems more than your problem, or they won't listen. And another thing too, when dealing with society and masculinity, and one thing is who judges masculinity, because as a black male, you always gonna hear, well, I done heard a lot of times, well, you ain't a man, or chivalry is dead. How can you judge? How can you tell me I'm not a man, you ain't, and you a female?
Okay, so let me tie these two together, and then as you think of other things, raise your hand. So the problem with patriarchy is it's a system. It's a system of thought of gender and how we relegate people. Now, here's the thing. If society is good with it and everybody buys into it, like, there's nothing wrong with being a great slave. If you want to be a slave, then so be it. But if you don't want to be a slave, then that's where the problem comes in. So if you want to treat women as second-hand citizens and that they are less valued, it's a problem if they have a problem. I'm all for covering a woman. I'm all for that, if a woman wants to be covered. The problem is society has told them that they need to be equal. So as soon as society tells you that you need to be equal, now you're going to have inequality and problems when you try to explain to somebody a different or antiquated thought where, no, I make the decision because I'm the man. You can reference the Bible if you want. You can reference Uncle Bubba if you want. You can reference whatever you want. But if they don't feel in line with it, you're going to have a problem. You just might be in the wrong country, because if you go somewhere else in a different culture, in a different religion, hey, they will explain to you the best thing in the world is to be a woman, because I'm covered. If my husband died, my brother gonna cover me. If my father who covered me when I was young, they gonna explain. There's people in the Islamic faith that'll tell you there's a reason why we get treated that way. So let's get over to how we develop our value system. The problem is somebody else is developing our value system. So at the end of the day, you can't tell somebody they ugly. That's up for them to decide. So I don't care if another man tells you you're not a man. It's up for you to decide. Here's the problem, but are you actively thinking about it and deciding for yourself? Or are we going to talk about what a man is? Are we going to say a man is just a provider, so it's about your money? A man is somebody who can protect himself or protect somebody else, so that's what makes you a man? Is it simply your gender? Is it simply that's what's swinging between your legs? Who's to say? Somebody's going to tell you a man takes care of his own. And that's what makes me a man. So it don't matter if I beat the hell out of my wife, I pay the bills. So everybody's going to have a different view. My argument to you is nobody should be able to force their views on you. You should determine what those views and those values are. Now, trust and believe on this last exercise I'm going to take you through, but you could be wrong. Because what you got to understand about conviction, what you got to understand about perception, when you slap the hell out of somebody, you don't think you're wrong. You actually believe you're right. In your heart of hearts, you know you're right. But you're wrong. I'm a person who believes in outcomes. Let your outcomes dictate what your reality should be. So if you want to stack money, well, you ain't rich if you ain't got money. You're not loving if you don't love somebody. You're not caring if you don't care. So all these things, when you talk about being a full human, if you're not able to demonstrate that, then you're already limiting who you are. All I'm telling you is, it ain't your birthday, and you don't really know what your name is. Come on.
What's the greatest lie you ever been told?
Ooh, the greatest lie I've ever been told? I would probably say immediately off the top, the greatest lie I've ever been told is that you're inferior. When in fact the opposite is biologically true, intellectually true, culturally true. Why I could say it's the greatest lie? If you look at be African American. And you look at our identity, when you've restricted your culture, your language, your history. So we created our own history here in America. We created our own language here in America. We create our own culture here in America. But the reality of it is, it's not part of your lineage. So it is made up. All culture is made up. But you don't have the benefit of being able to walk around in the strength of saying, no, this is who I am. This is who, I actually understand melanation. I actually understand that all melanation, you have a lack of melanation, but you came from me. Period. So you're not going to tell me you less. You're the child, I'm the dog. That's the reality of the black man. But if you don't understand it that way, you're going to have challenges. Come on.
Okay, on the mental,
Hey, 1 second. If y'all don't mind, we are online. You have to use the microphone so the people watching can hear you.
on the mental aspect of things. Okay, say for instance, we notice a brother going through something and we go and try to, talk to him to see where, he may be going. But us as men, we have an issue with pride and our ego. To me, that's kind of a killer. Because even though we're interested in trying to talk to them so they can vent or whatever, how do we, with our pride and our ego, how do we go by trying to help a young man, a brother, or whatever in their time of need?
You saying the pride and ego of you, or the pride and ego?
The pride and ego of the man that's going through something.
Okay.
And we notice it, and we're trying to help them out. How do we, and they're gonna have that push and pull. So how do we help them in that aspect?
Okay. So, remember I said courageous conversation? I actually have a whole workshop on how to have those conversations. But the reality of it is the first thing you have to do is try to assess what's going on. And once you think there's a problem, that's why I said love. You can never be wrong in love. So now you approach them, hey, I don't know if you have an issue, but I feel like you might have an issue and I'm worried. Let's talk about it. Now, hopefully you have that relationship with that person and talk to them. You want to do it in private, you want to do it off to the side. I recommend that you set a time to do it. Don't just rush up on somebody after church. Say, hey, hey, good to see you. Can we get some lunch the other day? I want to talk to you about something. It's been on my mind, it's been on my heart. Then you have that conversation. Now, people gonna be defensive because I don't want you in my business. If I haven't been honest with myself, what makes you think I'm gonna be honest with you? So you gotta be prepared to hear that. You gotta be prepared to step away. But you leave them with, okay, well, I understand. We can table this, we can come back, we can talk later, but I'm gonna still check them. At the end of the day, the real answer to that question is pride and ego. We use those things in a way we actually believe what we know what they mean. There is nothing good about pride. Nothing. But we come to think that pride means I have self-esteem. No, those are two different things. Those are two different things. If I have self-esteem and I have a problem, I should won't help. Point blank period. If my car breaks down and everybody else driving away, I'm gonna just let y'all drive away and sit there? Because I used to do that. I don't want no help. No, see, that's hubris. That's not helping you. So, we can talk more about that. Yes, sir. Oh, I thought you had your hand. Come on.
I got a question right here.
Come on.
What about that self-thought or the negative thoughts of yourself maybe from past mistakes, things that you may have suffered from, and you kind of judge yourself or down on yourself? How do you deal with something like that?
Okay, so the first and clear answer to that is guilt is a worthless emotion. Whatever has happened has already happened. And ain't nothing you're going to do to change it. All you do is continue to punish yourself. That's why you need to atone. Once you atone, You have to forgive. Once you have forgive, you're going to forgive somebody else, but you don't want to forgive yourself. Think about it. You easier to forgive somebody else than forgive yourself. Here's the problem and why it's hard for people to do that. You know every mistake you ever made. Nobody else does. So you focus on the mistake. You know you slipped and fell. You know you didn't do that. He don't know it, he don't know it, he don't know it. So the problem is, you so full of hubris that you think you're the only person who has ever made a mistake. So now you have a negative self-talk. You can't do that. But what's fueling the negative self-talk? I'll give you an example. I made a mistake. How did you make a mistake? You're still here. Well, I said the wrong thing. What was the right thing to say? Prove to me that was the right thing to say. Life is mutually exclusive. If I walk this way, I can't walk that way. So how, this is what guilt does. This is what all that I should have done does. Well, if I would have took that path, it would have been better. You don't know that. But that's the self-talk. Now, the negative aspect of it, again, you know your mistakes. The problem with it is, it's self-fulfilling. As a man thinketh, so you're going to reinforce that. I'm going to show you something. 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 Who in here sees a red shirt? Okay. But if I were to ask you before if there were any red shirts and how many red shirts were in here, you'd be like, I don't know. You would have to look around. But now that you know that there's 2 red shirts in here, you're going to find them red shirts. That's what self-talk does. But you can do it in the positive too. Man, I'm gonna run this 440. I'm gonna run it and I ain't gonna stop. Hey, I ain't get it today. I'm gonna get it tomorrow. As long as I come back and try tomorrow. Dang, I didn't get it on Thursday. Well, I guess there's Friday. So now, you're having a positive thought, but you're acting as if you're going to realize that. It's something that we get into. Part of it is, again, why are you having negative self-talk? Who's telling you that you failed? That's where you're going to see all those other things in society, where people are telling you, you ain't got enough money, you ain't smart enough. You make everybody, the only way to learn is by making mistakes. That's the only way to learn. Point blank period. If you were perfect, there'd be nothing to learn. Last question, then go ahead and advance the slide.
You touch up on life balance and priority. What do you mean about that?
Life balance priority. So, I don't want to give you the answers on this last piece of exercise we're going to do, but here's the reality. What's the purpose of your life? So if you spending all your time at work, is that the value of your life? But you're not taking care of your kids, you're not getting sleep. Is that balance? When you talk about all those domains that we quickly went through, you don't have faith in anything? Is that balanced? So what does your life become? You have to have balance. Everybody tells you you have to have balance. They don't tell you how to accomplish it. I'm going to tell you this. Everything is important, but not at the same time. While you're at work, work is more important than your hobby. But while you're on your hobby, it's more important than your work. When you're with your kid, that's more important than your job. If you can't compartmentalize and understand that all of these things have to be touched on and they all have to be in balance, then you're going to let something suffer. Anything you neglect is going to rot. What happens is society's going to teach you, as long as you're doing your job, you're good. Your relationships will fall away, and it's just, y'all know how many children are born out of wedlock in the African American community? 78%. So we starting off with rocky relationships. How are we gonna neglect it then? You gotta have things in balance. So if you have an understanding of, I'm gonna protect my seed, or just protect your blood. If you just protect your blood, life will work out better for you. All right, here we go, last piece. So, I told you, do you really believe it? Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits, your values become your destiny. Do you actually believe it? Do you actually believe that you have the power to define yourself? My question is this: how are you disciplining your thinking? If you think a Mercedes makes you better, why? If you think I don't have enough degrees, that makes you less, why? If you think just because you had a failed relationship that somehow you're a failure, why? How many of y'all are perfect? So why are you beating yourself up for not being perfect? How you think is your reality. So, advance the slide. What is an ideology? I'm just going to give you the answer. It's just a system of how you processing things. What is your ideology? Do you have an ideology? Who has an ideology? Are you sure? Tell me your ideology. Be better at what you can do? Come on. You don't have one? Come on. Okay. So what I'm going to argue with all of y'all is none of y'all have an ideology. Advance the slide. When you have an ideology, it should dictate every single thing that happens in your life. It should never change. Whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're in church, it should all remain the same. You should have principal tenets in your life, unmovable things in your life, guideposts in your life that are going to say, hey, if I'm broke, that's okay. Because I was never defined by money. If I fail, that's okay. I'm not defined by somebody else's opinion. When we really start thinking of those 10 poles, it matters. Next slide. Here's some of the things that you've identified and we're going to talk about. In the last couple minutes, I want you to do this exercise. I wish you would. Aggression and conflict. These are potential concerns that we have. Positive or negative relationships with fathers or father figures. What did you learn from your father? What did you miss from your father? Patriarchy in our relationship to women. Sexual promiscuity, is that what makes you a man? Or do you feel mad because you had a child by a woman and she's just taking your money for no reason? How much of your identity is shaped by these relationships? Racism and arrested development. I promise you, you will never make the same anything versus somebody who has a 400-year advantage. That doesn't mean you can't be successful. That doesn't mean you can't be Obama. That doesn't mean you can't be LeBron. That doesn't mean you can't be whatever. Be the best person you can be. Maximize whoever you can be. But you are not going to achieve anything you can achieve with nothing. You'll be closer to achieving it if somebody would have gave you something. Point blank period. It's just a reality. You have to understand everything is not going to be equal. So be careful who you're comparing yourself to. Your identity should not be built on someone else. It should not be built on somebody else's reality. That's why you have to be a global understander. Being black here is different than being black in Germany. It's different than being black in Brazil. So what is black? You need to understand that before you start identifying yourself as less. because of that melanin that's trying to keep that cancer off of you. All right? I'm fine. I don't need no damn help. Right? Validation as a man, respect and conquest. Anger is the only acceptable emotion. I'm a grown-ass man. You can't tell me nothing. Right? Do we actually have supportive and appropriate male relationships? Or just your male friends, just people you spend time with? Are they supportive? Are they building? Are they keeping you in line? Are they challenging you? Are they helping you grow? Are they there when you're down? Are you there when they're down? Right? Never let them see you sweat. How much unprocessed frustration do you have? You know you didn't get that job. You know you can't afford what you got. You know somebody done said something to you. Man, when somebody's yelling at you and you have a response to it, you 12 years old again. You're not 40. Those emotions are when somebody yelled at you when you were 12. You just haven't resolved that issue yet. I don't care and what. That allows us to validate any of our behavior. I don't care and what. Did you just, I don't care and what? Did you just, I don't care and what? Right? So here's the challenge. What is the identity, or what is the ideological position? And I'm going to go around, I'm going to hit at least half the men in here. If you were trying to buttress yourself in that locker room or in that barber house, and we were trying to create an identity that would help counter all of these things, what would it be? What would it be? I'm going to give you the first one. We're mortal. We're mortal. When you stop thinking that you're going to be here forever, things are different in their perspective. Little things don't matter anymore. Right? Give me 5 things and I'm going to leave you alone. If these are potential concerns, what ideology do we need to develop to help buttress against them? Any brave soldiers, or y'all just want me to give you the answers? Positive affirmation? From who? From yourself? Okay. And I'm not mad at you having a friend who will help give you positive affirmations.
What if you treat everybody like you want to be treated?
I'm not mad at it. Treat everybody as fairly as you want to be treated. It's a great step. What are you going to do when they don't treat you fairly? There you go. That's a tenet. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I apologize for if I offended you. But it ain't going to change my behavior. See, that's a tenet. It don't move.
I got a couple, I don't know if they're tenets or not, things I kind of, I guess, base my life on. One is, like you said, treat people well. Try to do the right thing when I do the wrong thing. Try to be honest. I know things don't work out.
So those are things that are going to help you move in a way that may allow you not to fall in some of these traps. So for the issue of time, I will tell you this. I wish you wouldn't have said the last part, because you was on the money. Change your mindset. Point blank period. Not only about what you're going through, just in general. So any of these things, let me change my mindset about intimacy.
I got some, it's gonna be deep though. I'm gonna ask this question. Can I ask a question? I'm gonna ask that, I don't mean to take the floor. Can I ask a question? So my question is, I really don't want to use it. My question is, out of all of us, who are Christian men here, is my question. So, the thing that you said was ideology is the system of how you process your thinking. So a lot of that is, I hear everybody raising their hand, and they'll say, trying to be a better person, trying to do these things, but we have that. So when I say we true Christians, we have an example of that thinking. So I believe that the word of God is that, but the issue is, do we really believe it? That's where we fail, and not just in Christianity, but like in that as men. So I'm a Christian, we're using that title, but we don't really believe it. Because if we're going through this process, we're dealing with certain issues, but we have an example of how to deal with those certain issues. Not bringing religion in it. I'm talking about man to man. But if you read this word and you truly believe it, and you understand you're in the word, that is the precepts. That is the way to change the thing. And it's telling you how to treat your neighbor. It's telling you how to deal with certain situations. But if we don't read it, we don't know. So then you're dealing with it by yourself. So you can't say I'm a Christian, or you can't really believe it if you're not operating in it. You have an example, but we don't read it. So we holding attendance. So it's the issue.
So let me build off of it. So the key is, it's a system of thought. Now, I will agree with you. Do you actually believe it? So here's the problem with anything, because there's a point. There's a difference between truth and faith. You got to understand, you cannot believe something that you know is true. It's just a reality. You got to have faith. You got to believe in your faith. But is it an example? It is an example of a way to live. It's an example of a way to live now, and it's an example to live later. Now, I'm going to piggyback off, do you believe it? Because I'm going to tell you that you don't believe it. But it's like any system of thought. When you have ups and downs, it's the doubt. It's the non-belief times that takes you away from your thing. So here's the thing. All of this exists while you're in church. Right? You have to be, I'm going to say it this way. You have to understand and accept it. If you take the lessons and say, I'm going to treat my neighbor as I want to be treated, cool. But then you can't be mad when it doesn't work that way, if that's the principle that you follow. If you're trying to say, give unto God what is God's and give unto Caesar, so now you have a dichotomy going. I still got to live in this world, but are you going to be mad because you don't have what somebody else has? Or are you going to be happy with what you have? So the principle remains the same, whether you take it from the Bible, whether you take it from the Quran, whether you take it from sitting down and understanding. What I'm going to suggest to you is this. If you're struggling, struggling happens. But it is still belief. Just because I come in here and I tell you you need to forgive somebody, that ain't going to stop your wife from cussing you out. So what are you going to do when that happens? See, the reality, the truth of what happens is how you actually respond. That's the truth. So if I'm cussing you out, I'll just cussing you out. That's what I do. If I'm angry because someone slighted me, then I'm an angry person. So if we can't manifest it, I don't care what principles that you're trying to operate under. Brother said you have to have a change of mindset. That's what I'm saying. But you have to actually adhere to it. I can't tell you you're valuable. I can tell you that, hey, how many people aren't here? I can tell you that nobody will ever be like you. I can tell you that nobody can love you more than you love yourself. I can tell you you're important. But me saying it means nothing if you don't believe it. So if you say I'm a child of God and that's enough for you, cool. I'm not mad at you. If you say you're an African king and that's enough for you, I'm not mad at you. If you say I'm Mr. Johnny Discipline and discipline is my Lord and Savior, I'm not mad at you if you get the results that you're looking for. What I'm saying is the statistics tell you that you're not getting the results that you want. We're not doing well. Period. So I would challenge you, the activity that I would have liked to have done, and we tried to race through it, but we had questions and different things, is if we sat here as men, as if we were in a barbershop, and we start having a conversation. It's okay to be intimate with another man. It's okay to rely on somebody else. It's okay to feel bad and say, hey man, I actually feel bad. It's okay to say, man, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Man, I feel bad. But I gotta let it go. It's okay to say, man, I'm just gonna have to live with this mistake. We married now. We just gonna have to come to terms with it. But if you sat like you sit in a barbershop and we had that conversation and you start saying, what are the precepts that are going to allow you to change the way that you think about yourself, about existence, I promise you it'll be powerful. This is what I know is true, and then I will leave you alone. I know there's nothing in the world that I've ever not wanted that I have not manifested. And I recognize it was not my own strength and power that did it. I recognize that. I didn't entertain the things that would take me away from it. It sounds easy. But are you going to be the person that goes left when everybody else is going right? Are you going to be the person who, I'm going to pick on myself. I started investing when I was 11 in the market at 11 because my dad told me, you ain't got nothing. I trust my dad. You ain't got nothing. He was one of them dudes, I allow you to live in my house and that's all you get. Didn't get no allowance, didn't get nothing. I got sisters, they getting cars, they getting houses, they getting everything. Weddings paid for, I got nothing. Not a penny. I believed him. Why? You're a man. I was like, that's not fair, but that's the world. But anybody can invest. You put $100 away when you're 11, you'll be a millionaire before you're 32. But that's you making that decision that you have to take responsibility for a resource. Not because I want to be rich, not because I want to buy something, because I want to be able to buy my time and my freedom. That's an ideological position. If you want to work your whole life by acquiring other things, that's on you. I can't tell you. We're going to have to do part 4. Because I told you I was going to try to rush. Willie came in. Willie should stay in traffic for a little while longer. Come on, Fish. Get me off the mic, man.
If you think that mental health is not important, as grandmama said, you got another thing coming. Y'all give them another hand. Keep this thing moving. Our next presenter, we can go ahead and get that other PowerPoint up. Moving, I believe it is. Brandon Lewis was raised to the Sublime River Master Mason September 23rd, 2017 at Prince Hall Lodge No. 1 in Nashville, Tennessee. The following year, he was named by his Lodge Brother of the Year in 2018. 2020, he joined the Royal Arch, chapter of Mount Sinai 135, where he currently serves as the chapter's chaplain or host. And he got a long book too, but I'm gonna jump down to his, and all of it is important. But Brandon's education background is in human performance, which is where his heart outside of Freemasonry is. He graduated from Louisiana College with a BS in athletic training and an MS in exercise science at Middle Tennessee State University. He is certified strength and conditioning specialist through the National Strength and Conditioning Association and has a certified personal trainer certification and is a corrective exercise specialist through the American Council on Exercise. He takes his passion for his field and started his own personal training company in 2018 called The Core Training, where he can touch lives beyond the surface as he helps men reach out, not only their health and wellness goals, but most importantly, their psychological goals. I told you these guys are professionals. Y'all put your hands together and welcome another one of my Masonic brothers, Brandon Lewis. Need some help?
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you guys once again for giving us the most quality thing that you have, which is your time. So we want to make sure that we maximize that time and give it the most value that we can give to you. So I'm glad to be a part of this this panel here and amongst these men, because they are definitely some quality guys, professionals. So we want to make sure that you guys are in good hands. So as you said, once again, my name is Brandon Lewis. You can go to the next slide. Meet your presenter. This is myself. I do have a Master's in Exercise Science. See my CSCS, of course. Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, Certified Personal Trainer, and of course, obviously mentioned Corrective Exercise Specialist. Corrective Exercise Specialist is essentially saying I'm able to pretty much blend the two worlds of physical therapy and strength conditioning, kind of bring those two worlds together. Sometimes people are they graduate from therapy, but they're not quite ready to go full all out and go, do CrossFit type stuff. So I kind of blend those two worlds together so they don't end up back on the physical therapy table. Next slide. All right, let's address the elephant in the room. Gotta go ugly before we get pretty. All right. Obesity. Right? We talked about it earlier, just a few, Brother Callahan mentioned a little bit about your physical health, being not just, of course, this is very important, because without your mind, you don't have your body. We're talking about the body in this segment. And we're talking about obesity. It's a huge thing here in America, especially down in these southern states here. All right, next slide. So what is it? Essentially, it's accumulating fat and being heavy over time. You're putting a lot of stress on the internal organs of your body, and eventually you end up with what we call these risk factors: cardiovascular disease, becoming obesity, having high blood pressure, especially in the Black community, where we're the #1 Black men of having these issues. All right, but how do they judge that? They use this thing called BMI, body mass index. It looks at two things. All it looks at is your height and your weight. That's all it knows. So is it relevant for everyone? No, it's not. Now, if you are the typical couch potato, you have been doing your thing, who knows how long, but you've never really been active, it may be a little bit more accurate towards you or towards that population. But most of your athletes, most of your most active guys in the gym, working out, putting on a little muscle, muscle, of course, is going to weigh a little bit more than fat, of course. So that number is going to definitely be different for you. So those individuals, like most athletes, look at someone like LeBron James. He's going to be quote unquote obese. If you look at him, does he look overweight and obese? Of course he doesn't. So in those populations, the BMI is going to be irrelevant. So you have to use other types of tools in order to judge certain people's body composition and see where they are. And they have different things such as skin fold tests, you have DEXA, you have body measurements. So there's underwater weighing. So there's different body composition tests you have to use to get an overall view. So BMI is okay, but based on your activity, how much lean muscle you may have, will determine if that's going to be relevant for you or not. Next slide. So risk factors: lack of physical activity, lack of quality sleep, lack of sleep, period. Who works third shift? Anybody work third shift? Good job. I graduated. Sometimes third shift gets thrown to the new guys who get hired. So most of y'all have graduated up to the first and second shift. Good job. But even then, sleeping 10 hours, is it quality? I know some can sleep for 4 hours and they feel great. So what's your quality looking like? Because this is actually when you actually are using that type of hormone that we have called that growth hormone, when you're fasting in your sleep. So that first meal you have, your break fast, we call it breakfast, simply the first meal you have after that sleep. But fasting is one of the best things for your body in that time. It gives you time to break down foods, basically reset itself. Your cells are resetting. This is why the quality of sleep is very, very important, because that's linked to everything else with your life. Kind of hard to do when you're constantly tired. When we work out, you think we're building muscle or we're building our strength in the gym, or are we building it with our recovery and our nutrition? It's the recovery. It's sort of like, I always look at it like an ant pile. When you was a little kid, you're on that bike, you would ride through the little ant pile. Everybody did it, don't lie. You ride through it, you see a little tire mark through there. What those little ants would do overnight? Let him ride through here again, or jump on his ankles. But that's how your body does. It has to reset, but if you're constantly breaking it down, you're constantly riding that bike through there, it never has a chance to rebuild. So you need that quality rest. Too much screen time. Who got an iPhone? It will now tell you your screen time. The goal is for it to be reduced, brothers, not for it to be increased. But it will tell you, oh, you went up 10% this week. Oh, man, yeah, that was good. No, man, that means you took away time from something you could have been doing. Those who still play computer games, you're on TV a lot, all that still counts as screen time. What are you doing with that time? Next slide. Well, once again, for the second year in a row, Tennessee did not make the list. Give yourself a hand clap. Somebody knew something right. So we do have top 10 states. Tennessee is not on that list. But we were at 35%, so don't get me wrong. We got some things going on in Tennessee. You're going to see it on the next slide. However, we did not make the top state list. My home state, unfortunately, Mississippi, we just like on life, we just can't get right. Mississippi too, Hattiesburg and Natchez. Columbus? Okay, you was up north. Yeah, you was up north. Yeah. So, but we did not make the list. But yes, we got West Virginia, Kentucky, which is right next door to us, Alabama next door to us, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, South Dakota, Ohio, Iowa. Next slide. But we did make the city, not Nashville. But if you got some family in Knoxville or Memphis, they made the top cities. It's not good. We moved down south though, we like to eat good. We call it good. Is it really good? You believe it's good? Got Chattanooga too. It tastes good. We know how to eat down here down the south, but we got to make sure that we also be aware there is a time and place for all of it. And typically when we get together, we know how we do it. We do the barbecue, we do the fried fish, we do it. I get it. There's a time and place for all of it. And I'll talk about that a little bit on the next slide. Go ahead and keep moving. So, perfect timing. None of this. We can do all the push-ups, pull-ups, and lunges in the world. We can run all we want to. But your fueling system, what you're fueling yourself with, is what's going to make the biggest impact. Again, we just talked about recovery, nutrition. This is what's going to make the biggest difference. All right? This is your foundation. Everything else builds from that. Next slide. So, proteins, fruits, vegetables, grains, dairy. You guys know these here. Again, we know this stuff. We just choose not to use it. But we know this. Every single one of us knows this. Even if you're not a nutritionist, even if you're not a dietitian, we know we should be eating fried foods every day. We know we should be eating those snacks every day. When we go to the gas station, just buy your gas. Just go buy the gas. You go into a gas station. You don't have to walk in there. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get these Kit Kats. They got wings. Oh yeah, potato veggies. Just go get the gas. That's what you came in for. right? So even though you may not know exactly what all to eat, the easiest list that we know is what we shouldn't have. We do know that, all right? So there are 2 diets. This is not necessarily something I would say you have to do, but they're pretty simple to follow for most people. Now, I also will say this: make sure you also always talk with your docs, your primary carers, before you take on any deep endeavors like this. But for the most part, most people can drink and handle this. All it is basically cleaning yourself up. Next slide. So you have the Mediterranean, you have a dash. Mediterranean area is typically around areas where they call the blue zones. Blue zones are typically areas around the world where average lifespan is much higher here, higher than where we are here. They're in their 90s and 100s. You know the average lifespan here in America is now? It's about 74, 75. That's low. That's a young man compared to around the world, compared to where these people are averaging 90. What are they doing? Well, let's look at what they eat. Typically fish, their seafood, their carbohydrates there is not necessarily the highest. They're not eating a lot of junk foods all the time. They're really big on with their extra vinegar. Huh? It's a good thing. It actually works out for them. But what do we have mostly here? We are able to process things. Stuff can live on our shelves for 4 years before we eat it. There's something wrong with that. There's a reason why they're constantly going. We have fresh markets here, but that's their daily life. Ours is seasonal. They typically have, that's how they survive. They're constantly going to, you talking about women being covered. That's what they're doing. Husband's out getting the resources, and she's out gathering, getting those fresh fruits and vegetables and all those things that they need on a daily basis, if not weekly. But there is room at the bottom here, as you see, about once a week. They still have, maybe red meat once a week. They still have room for their sweets. There's a time and place for all of it. When I categorize foods, I don't necessarily say there's good and there's bad. I will say there's foods which I have more of and have a lot less of. And unfortunately, a lot of times here we sweet because it's easier to go by the Star Crunch. It fills us up very quickly, but it also gets out of your system very quickly too. This is why lean great proteins, it helps you feel full longer. You don't have to go out and get constantly buying those simple sugar foods that are typically man-made. You're reading a label, and it typically says artificially flavored. Read the back of it, and it says trans fats. These are man-made. This is made in a lab. We got things that are in our foods that are illegal in other countries. Take that into consideration. You can't pronounce it. Probably shouldn't go in your system. Right? I would challenge people to look as close as possible when you're getting something. When you go to the grocery section, grocery aisle, most grocery stores are designed very specific. Most of the things you should have, or at least take a better look at, is around the stuff that you shouldn't go to. So your produce, your fruits, vegetables, your eggs, your dairy, all that stuff is around here. On the inside, all your boxed stuff, all your stuff that can live for 4 years before you eat it. All right? So, yes, it can cost a little bit to get those things, but think about your life. Yes, because things do run out very quickly, but if it can live on your shelf and it has an expiration date, and the expiration date is 3 years from now, what do you think it's doing in your body? Look at Coke. Who drinks Coke? Don't lie. All right, cool. Now, again, when it's on that 80-20 kind of rule, you're doing the right things 80% of the time, about 20%, you have that snack for yourself. Got you. I had a coach who drunk them every single day. You know what you could use Coke for?
Battery acid.
Clean the battery acid. It does other things too. Clean pennies. It clean the but think of what it's doing to your body. The only one that you have, you only get one of them. And I think it's the greatest machine ever being created because we're still figuring things out with it. We got different people. The body is just like a car. It's like any other thing. You got different people who specialize in parts of the body itself because it's so complex. You got a specialist who does the bones, an orthopedic specialist. You got an endocrinologist who does the hormones. You got an exercise physiologist who studies all those organs and the systems and how they respond to stimulus and physical activity, etc. So you have all these specialists just to even try to come up with a concept and try to figure out what the Creator did. And it's still stuff that we just don't know. We're still trying to figure it out. Next slide. Who suffers from high blood pressure? Ever heard of the DASH diet? Anybody? DASH diet, dietary approach to stop hypertension. There's ways to season things without having to put 2 pounds of salt on it. I know we like season stuff here down here in the South. We love it. But there's ways to season things without actually having to season it to a point where all you taste is the seasoning. You don't even taste the meat. But the DASH diet essentially reduces a lot of your sodium, increases your clean proteins, reduces a whole lot of the unnecessary carbohydrates you don't need. We overlook our vegetables. We need them. This is literally, it's like Creator gave us his body and gave us all these things that we need to sustain it. It's here. It's been here. We like to recreate the wheel, especially here in America. We like to reinvent the wheel. We're like, oh, well, that's cool, but I want to go create this. Now I've got to go in the lab and put chemicals, things that are, again, illegal in other countries, to make it taste good. Sometimes you got to eat for life, not eat for taste. I hate to say that, but that's the reality sometimes. Is it worth you losing your life over time? Habits. Next slide. Side-by-side comparison, essentially one has a little bit more of the red meats than the other. One is a little bit more on the oily side with the extra vinegar oil and the fish. So that's when you compare the two. But both are going to be very productive if you put them both side by side. They're very easy to follow for the most part. But again, always check with your doctor before you do this. Next slide. All right, movement. Now we're going to start moving. So, dealing with movement. Regarding fitness, because you can look at movement in multiple ways. Technically, a movement can be when you're having a bowel movement. We're not talking about that movement. Even though it is important, the gut health is extremely important. It's actually the foundation of your health, is your gut health. But this particular version of the movement, what we're talking about, is the movements of your body that you make on a daily basis, whether you're at home, you're in your neighborhoods, you're in your schools, etc. Next slide. So, like who studies music? I know a little bit about music. How many chords? What, 4 major chords or something like that? Is that about right? I think it's about 4 chords, if my memory serves. Essentially, it's about 4 chords that you can play 100 songs off of based on the rhythm of those chords. All right? Body's the same way. It's about 7 movements. That's it. That's all it does. That's all it does. It squats. It squats. It hinges. Some would say bend. All right? Locomotion. It moves, of course. It pushes. It pulls. It rotates. And it will lunge. Every movement, every exercise you do, essentially is building off of those movements. So all the fancy exercises you hear about, all they do, people hanging from the ceiling, doing whatever, it's either one or a combination of those 7. Next slide. Next slide. It's just a visual. I did the visual. So there are exercises that we can do. Somebody young in the back. Can I get one of y'all? Anybody? One of the young men.
He went to the restaurant.
He's good. He's good. Actually, he's good. He's good. He's good. So we're gonna demonstrate. I'm a big visual person, so I'll give y'all some visuals, some things to take back with you. Okay, this is my last thing I got for you. So upper body. Keep it simple. We're going to do a horizontal push and a horizontal pull. All right? The push, I'm going to have you turn away. But I want you to grab one of these here, one in each hand. Perfect. So this push, this horizontal push, this is one of the movements of the body, okay, the most should know. I'm going to be your resistance. I don't want you to just press it forward for me like you're doing a chest press. Bring it back. This is a push. So how can you do this? You can do this at home. You can do this against a wall. Push again for me. Relax. You can push against a wall like a wall push-up. If you can't do a push-up, this is another way to do them. You don't have to do them off your knees if you can't do them. Feel free to do them on your knees. These are not girl push-ups. They're called modified. Don't let your pride, we talked about earlier, don't let your pride tear your shoulders up because you kind of prove a point. Modified. That's what we call them, okay? They're called modified. All right. Face me, still hold the bands, but you got to switch your hands around though. All right. Same plane. We're going to do a pull against me. This is a horizontal pull. It's also known as a row. All right. You can put this band, I can be a door, you can have this into a wall, have this band tied into a knot, put it into a wall or a door, lock it in. You can do a simple row. Repeat the exercise for me, please. So your shoulders the band. You exercise, don't you? He already know what to do. Yeah. He already know. So notice his shoulders are down, chest is up, and you squeeze in the middle of his shoulder blades. This is called a simple row. Other ways you can do this, grab a dumbbell, do a row on a bench though, okay? All right, next movement. Can you perform a squat for me? All right, perfect. So a squat, very simple. His feet are slightly wider than shoulder width, chest is up, he's gonna sit back. Now, everybody's hips don't go down in this position. It's 90 degrees, all right, it's okay. If you're a 45-degree squatter, we'll take 45 degrees. There's ways to safely still do this. You can have a wall behind you with a big old physio ball. You know, use those big balls, put that ball behind you and safely squat down, coming back up. Another safe way to do this, if you have a countertop, thank you, my words, countertop in front of you. You can simply have the same thing, feet are slightly wider than shoulder width, grab that countertop, slightly squat down to a mini squat, coming back up. You're still working those legs, the foundation of what you need, but it's movement. We're trying to get you to move. There's so many complex things you can do. We can keep things simple just by simply moving. All right? And rotation, I don't have it up there. Grab this with both hands. All right, face here. Let's say this is tied into a wall. Arm straight out for me. Now I want you to keep your arms straight, wind your feet out just a little bit. You're gonna rotate against me. There you go. Yep, turn it towards fish. There you go. Rotate again. So what we're doing, we're resisting for the trunk here. Why is it important? Relax, yeah. There's trust on both sides. Trust on both sides. And so that's our rotation. Again, we said the body will rotate, also known as twisting for layman's terms. Why is that important? Working those obliques to support what we call our trunk area. Everything has to work together. So even from here down, technically would be considered our trunk. That is our foundation. If you're not very strong with that, you got back issues, you can't really do that. There's simple things called, you can do a plank on the wall. You can sit there, sit on the wall, and just simply hold that position. And then eventually work your way down. You can do a modified plank. If you can't do a plank on your elbows, what's a modified plank? It's like a modified push-up. Yes?
In reference to core and, you said V-core? Core Lou?
Lou Core.
Lou
Yeah.
Core.
Yeah. What about it?
Is that a reference? You talking about that core fundamental
Yes.
foundation?
It is. So right through here, as we're talking about, trunk area, also known as the core, it is the foundation. Everything that you do, every movement you have, all this entire block here is important for us because all of our movements transfer from here, from top to bottom, from bottom to top, side to side. Regardless of how you move, your trunk needs to be engaged. So we always talk about IQ in the personal training world is pushing your belly button towards your spine. That way you're making sure that you're engaged in all the movements that you do. Because all your power should be coming from the trunk moving forward and make sure that you're transferring that energy properly. All right? So a vertical pull or a vertical horizontal pull and a vertical press. I'm going to have you basically sit here. Face them. Yep, you're fine. Reach up. All right. So we're going to do basically a lap pull downs. Yep, go ahead and perform it. So a lat pull down. This is also known as what we call a vertical pull because he's pulling from the top down to the bottom, working the middle of his shoulder blades and his biggest muscle in his back called the lats. Some people call them the angel wings if you get them big enough. But these are muscles that are important for what? Your posture, for working on the muscles that are behind your shoulder blades. These muscles back through here support your posture. So your lats are what's very important in this movement here. So that's a vertical pull. I'm going to take the band out. I'm going to let you do the exact opposite position, exact opposite direction. You still stay there. Pretend you got some dumbbells in your hand and just push up. So this is what we call a vertical press. All right, vertical press. What is he working? He's working the shoulder blades. He's working specifically the anterior delts and triceps, maybe a little bit top of the chest, but mostly this is a deltoid tricep movement. So he's working these. So this is what we call a shoulder press, also known as a vertical press. Again, I told you those are movements. The body doesn't have too many movements. It has about 7. Everything else builds off of it. And I appreciate you. Thank you again. Give him a hand. I chose right. Good stuff.
Go ahead, run.
And so I do have these listed here. Moving forward, you guys can look at these. If our brother Fisher decides to share them with you, I think that is it. Next slide. So I left you with some references from the dietary guidelines to give you guys an idea, so you guys can click on those. If he shares these slides with you guys, so you guys can actually look at some further references for yourself. But that's my biggest thing, is making sure you guys understanding the basics. It doesn't have to be super complicated. You guys it does not have to be complicated. If you have access to bands, a mat, a few dumbbells, maybe even a physio ball, you can really do a lot. A gym can offer a lot as well. Some folks like going to the gym. So you can do it very simple in your own home. That dietary stuff, that can be done at home. You don't have to hire someone to make sure that it's all done for you. Everyone is not in those positions. So, yes, sir.
Quick question.
Yeah.
One is, when you did decide about nutrition and dealing with, certain foods and stuff like that, how stuff is today, a lot of people can't afford some of the good food. And some of the good food is more expensive than the bad food. So when you try to do that and try to diet, how do you compensate for having something good but keeping it in a budget?
So that's eating on a budget. Actually, that's one of the on myplate.gov. Clicking on here, there's a way to eat on a budget. Essentially, sometimes it is you having to choose the least of the 2 poisons. So certain restaurants you can go to, if you cannot get necessarily the highest thing on the list, what is the least of these that are still going to work aligned with my values, what I'm trying to do? Because I know, like, we go to somewhere like, it used to be like Piggly Wiggly. Save a Lot. It used to have the Big Five. And the Big Five is, I get it. It is the worst thing that we put in our community, but they know we'll buy it. They know we'll buy those 5 packages that are full of sodium, full of unnecessary things we don't need, but they know we can make it stretch like that too. However, sometimes frozen items a little bit cheaper. So in the frozen aisle, you can get some of the things out of there too that will kind of at least help you stretch a little bit more. Because when you get it fresh, yeah, it's gonna go immediately, which is gonna cost you a little bit more to do that. So, yeah.
Got you right, sir. Got you right.
Now, for people that are diabetic, okay, how it's a lot harder to, you know, to be able to eat healthier, because a lot of foods, looking at the nutritional values on certain things, it has the carbohydrates, it has the sugars that's in there, a percentage, but a lot of people that are diabetic don't know that if you look at the added sugars part, that's the one that's the kicker right there. That's the one that's gonna be more harmful to you. But on a fresh value, how do you distinguish which is gonna be good for you and which is actually bad?
On the fresh value of what?
Like the vegetables and things of that nature. Because even like with meats and things like that, I'm diabetic, so with the meats and everything, I always look for the less fat in the meats and stuff like that. But as far as like the fresh vegetables and things of that nature, fresh fruits, a lot of the fruits, even though they have their own sugar, the fructose can still mess your sugars up.
So certain fruits are going to be more what you call, so that question will come down to the glycemic level, glycemic index. And so if you're interested in so there are certain fruits that are going to be higher on that glycemic index, which basically means what's it doing to your blood sugar when it enters your bloodstream. Is it going to be an even steady rate, or is it going to spike it unnecessarily? Certain fruits like your berries, blackberries, strawberries, blueberries, your berries are typically lower on the glycemic index. But then you have fruits that are going to be much higher in glycemic index, spiking your blood sugar levels. And if you're not about to get involved in any type of activities, you probably don't want to walk around with a bunch of oranges or a lot of high citrus fruits that makes your blood sugars go way up. That's why in Florida, you see them eating a lot of oranges, because they're typically athletic and they're getting ready to go back into the field. So there are certain fruits you do want to watch out for. There are a lot more. So look that information up too. It's called the glycemic index. Whoever he gives the mic to.
Hey, I just want to kind of piggyback off my brother that was talking about the diabetes. Hopefully I can help somebody, because I'm type 2 diabetic, right? And what I did was, I didn't want to take the metformin and all that stuff, right? So I got with a nutritionist, and I did my own research by Google what I could eat and what I can't eat. And you find that online in Google, just ask what is good fruit for a type 2 diabetic. And I went on 90 days, no sugars, no carbs. Like you said, the added sugars is worse. I read the back of everything. And nuts, like you said, strawberries, berries, stuff like that. And I dropped my A1C in 90 days from 7.7 to 6.0. Nice. So mostly it's a choice. You got to, you got to make your mind up. Like when I go out to eat, what restaurant got sweet potato fries? I'm not going to eat the regular fries. And you make your mind up, and I'm like, dog, I love French fries. I got these sweet potato fries. But guess what? After a couple of times eating them, they were delicious. So that's what I eat now. But we got to make your own choices. You got to read everything, like you said, if you're type 2 diabetic or any diabetic. But I didn't want to go in there metformin, none of that stuff that my doctor was trying to tell me to do. So I got with the VA, and I got with a nutritionist, and then I did my own research. And that's how you got to work, because you're always going to get diabetic. But that's what you got to do. You got to take it upon yourself, research, read everything. The fruits, like you said, apples. Some of them, you can get green apples or yellow apples. They got less fruit content than red apples. But you got to know that for yourself and do that. And move. You can blame your blood. If your blood sugar is 40%, you can do 25% of your blood sugar drop just by walking 20 minutes.
That's it. Yeah.
So if that hit anybody out, that's what I got.
Yes, sir. We can have one up here. Was somebody up here? Oh.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of my brother here. I'm also diabetic, and I have a primary care physician. And I thought I was doing a lot of the right things, but basically what she explained to me was I was doing a lot of the right things, but I was doing too much of it. My low LDL was supposed to be around 30, but it was like 179 because, you know, I like cherries, I ate fruit, but, you know, I was sitting out eating a whole bag at one sitting.
Yeah.
You know.
You can't do it.
But you can't do that. And so she explained that, you know, everything, she said basically the body needs sugar. You know, your body needs sugar, but it's just a matter of, it has to be in moderation. You can't just, I mean, you can stop taking certain things, but basically it's okay. But you just have to know what that portion is. You can't, like I said, you can have a scoop of ice cream, but you can't eat a whole half-gallon ice cream. You know, so I had, you know, so basically right now she says if it swims or flies, I can eat it. You know, so I'm kind of on that kick right now. But at the same time, it teaches me moderation, you know, with anything. You just can't go overboard, you know, because some people just have to have, you know, I may want my bacon, but I can't eat a whole pound of bacon. You know, I just have to have a taste. So you just have to know how to discipline yourself in your diet. And like you said, move.
All right, now you're doing masonry 2 times.
I got you. But I agree with the gentleman because even with him, I went from an 8.8 to a 7.0.
Nice.
Okay,
Nice.
and I watch what I eat. I love my Pepsi. I'm not gonna even lie. So I used to drink Pepsi like water. No, I don't. But my thing is, I had to learn how. You know, I was drinking 3 or 4 a day. Now I had to learn how to drink 2 and 3 a week now, but I had to, you know, just listening and getting a nutritionist like the gentleman over here said, that's how I learned all about the nutritional facts and the values on whatever I eat. I knew about the glycemic index, but even on there, a lot of stuff was still kind of high, because I'm trying to get down to the 6.0 like you are, you know, and my goal was to get off of metformin. I'm off of that. I'm off of, I was on 4 different diabetic drugs. I'm off of all of them now.
Nice.
So it's just about the moderation, like the gentleman over there said, the moderation and everything, you know. And it's the movement is good. It's depending on how much movement that you do. Don't get to the point where you move one day and then the next 2 or 3 days you don't do nothing.
Right.
You got to constantly keep going, because as you're moving, it's dropping off a lot of that stuff. The more you sweat, the more you just keep active. And that's what the thing with type 2 diabetics, they got to understand. Just keep moving. Eat moderation, keep moving. Don't eat a whole full plate. Eat to satisfy your hunger. Don't eat to get full.
Perfect. Anybody here ever watched my 600 Pound Life?
Sheesh.
And that's a low number for a lot of them. 600, that's low. When you see that, that lets you see how resistant the body, how much the body wants to live. To be 600 plus pounds, still able to move, still able to stand up and go somewhere. Some of them are very mobile, shockingly. Some are to the extreme bedridden as well. But it lets you see how much your body wants to live. Like, I know if I was a heart, I'd have gave up 200 pounds ago. Now you good, you going on 400, bro. I'm good. 500-600 pounds. And there's still, the body's just like, I want to live. You need to go back the other direction. They gotta go see Dr. Now so he can get them, help them out. They've stretched it out so far that there's not enough walking they can do. There's not enough eating right they can do. At this point now, they need that And, so be thankful that you're not in those situations, but understand your body will fight for you, but you got to fight with it too.
Glad you said 600-Pound Life. I like that show. The interesting thing about it, if you watch it, every single one of them have psychological issues.
They got a story. They do.
Something happened to them, and
they do.
Then they
That's what
started misusing the food to satisfy things. So if you think about it this way, you talk about how resistant the body is. God had to sit us down sometimes. We want to hit 600 before we end up doing the right thing that we should have been doing in the first place. Can you talk about a little bit about the benefits of starting off with good health and while you're younger, and then continuing it throughout your life? The advantages to doing that as opposed to now we're gonna get serious because we got issues.
Right. So consistency is key. And as he said earlier about dropping that so many dollars in, investing in at 11 years old, you stay consistent. Consistency is key. Staying consistent, creating now a norm for yourself. So if you have young nephews or sons who are young, or great-grandsons or grandsons, get them on that path. Because if they get on that path, it becomes their norm. It becomes their environment. Then it looks weird to them to not do it. It looks weird for them to not actually do it. So these are great benefits that they actually understand the principles of this is my lifestyle. And we always want to give back. Say, hey, I don't want you to go through what I went through. I don't want you to have to go through metformin. I don't want you to have to go through not being able to walk up a flight of stairs. I don't want you to have to take a stop every 5 steps. I want you to have a much better outcome moving forward than what I've had to go through. So it's beneficial if they learn now because they're watching you. And so if we're high on the totem pole, unfortunately, for high blood pressure, who's watching us do that? If they're watching us not be able to be active and not do anything, look who's watching you. So it starts from us once we're here so that they can actually create a whole nother style. Because like he said earlier about what is black, what is that? It's the fact that we have these numbers out here about African Americans having the highest number. That's a lifestyle. It's not just, oh, because you black, yep, you got high blood pressure. Oh, you black, you're gonna live shorter. Oh, you black, you're gonna stress. That's a lifestyle. That's not because you're black. That's something that's just unfortunate. Our community has made it a norm. It doesn't have to be a norm. We can change the narrative. We can change the narrative. All right. You got anything else for me?
Yes, sir. With some of those slides that you have, I'm really interested in that dash guide. Is that something that you can email me those slides?
Yeah.
And
Official will send you
So
that.
guys, what I'll do is while we have that break, I'll put a piece of paper. If y'all put y'all email there, once he sends that to me, I'll forward it to everybody. So if y'all want it as well, I'll just forward it. So if you write on that piece of paper on that podium during the break, once he sends it to me, I'll send it to everybody else. Thank you, sir.
Well, quick question. Now, people who do work out, it's the first thing I done gave me the mic. One quick question. People who do work out, how do pre-workouts affect you with
Good question. Pre-workout. Glorified caffeine, okay, is basically flavored caffeine and multiple food colorings. Essentially what pre-workouts are consistent of is high levels of caffeine. They typically have some niacin inside of them, beta-alanine. Essentially what it's doing is chemically and physically forcing you to want to be ready to work out. Sometimes you feel like you're going to run through a roof if you take them, all right? Is it necessary? I'm going to say no. I'll tell you my issue that I had with them years ago. If you're going to do it, I would say go with a non-stimulus. Most guys, they simply want to have a good pump. All right. So what is that? What's going to actually give us that pump when we're working out? Is the arginine is what's for the most part. Citrulline, which is a precursor to arginine, And basically, it's going to increase a opening of the vessels, creating more blood flow, allowing you to kind of work out a little bit longer and harder. Do you have to have it? No. But I would definitely push away from the stimulants because it can cause potential heart issues. I know that I went through that when I was, I did it for about maybe 3 years, just finding out about, I didn't find out about pre-workouts until 2010. I've been an athlete all my life. I was like, what's a pre-workout? I don't know what that is. They were like, yeah, man, you gotta take this stuff, man. It'll get you hyped. And I'm like, all right. About 3 years, on and off, taking it. And started experiencing palpitations. Like, I would get off of it, come back, heart issue. Get off of it, heart was fine, get back on it. 2 weeks later, heart issue. I was like, that's the problem. I haven't had any problems with it anymore. A lot of guys will take those pre-workouts and then they'll get so used to them. Instead of getting off of them to down-regulate, they'll stack them. So then taking Jack 3D and C4 and now they're hyped. It was like, I said, what was I doing prior to that? I just wanted to work out. That's what I did. Why I need to chemically induce myself to make myself, I already want to be here. I'm here, I'm in the parking lot. I'm here. So why need to take this that's gonna have me up all night, especially if you do it after 5. Do not take heavy loads of caffeine after 5 unless you just don't want to go to sleep. You're not going to go to sleep. So that's basically what it's doing. A lot of them will have basically like getting nice and be in there for basically your face may be flushing. You'll have the beta-alanine in there. Beta-alanine and like these are like grandfathers, like beta-alanine, your creatine monohydrate. These are old guys who've been here for a while. They get tossed into these new guys, but they've been here for a while. Beta-alanine is going to feel kind of odd to most people, but it actually has some good long-term effects. But if you're not used to that beta-alanine, probably don't want to take it because it does kind of have that pins and needles kind of feeling. What it does is reduces the pH levels in your blood and allows you to work out longer and harder. But if that ain't you, that ain't your life, don't touch it. Don't do it. All right. Yeah. Just go in there with the mindset of just let life be enough to want to go in there and work out. Anything else? Is it true that chocolate milk is a good muscle recovery? Yes, it is we do this for athletes who are definitely on a budget, who are trying to just get some type of protein in their system. There are better options out there. But if chocolate milk is like your best option that you have, it's not the worst thing. Because what it's basically doing, that chocolate is raising your blood level just a bit, and then that protein is actually, it's the way that's inside the milk that's actually going inside. The chocolate's kind of raising your blood sugar just enough to kind of open up the protein synthesis, and then allowing the protein from the milk. So that's, in milk you have a whey and casein. Whey is typically a very fast digester, while casein is more of an even smooth kill across the board when it releases. Just chocolate milk. It's regular chocolate milk. It's a combination of chocolate and milk. That's why it's like that.
I had this discussion with my son a couple months ago. To young people these days, they're thinking energy drinks. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on energy drinks on a daily consumption or working out?
Horrible. Horrible. Especially on a daily basis, horrible.
What's a good program to start out for like us that time is, like our time is money basically, but we work a lot of hours or it's time crunched? A good 30 to 45 minute routine to get us a big jump start.
A good 30 to 45 minute routine, something simple at home like I just explained. You got, if you're at home, you got about 30 to 40 minutes of yourself, you can. What do you want to do with those 30 minutes? Do you want to do you want to do a walk at home? Get you maybe a mile in? Most people get about a mile in about 30 minutes, at least close to a mile, if you're walking at 20 points something minute pace. Or there are things you can do at home. As far as you got your body weight stuff you can do. If you got light bands at home, A circuit doesn't take long. You can do something simple as, you know, wall push-ups, modified push-ups, body weight squats, and maybe even hold a small plank. Repeat that 3-4 times. 30 minutes is up. Stepping in place. You watching a show, you can stand up between commercials. Step in place, march in place. Any kind of movement, like you said, what you said, we gotta move. Our body was not meant to sit. That's the worst thing we did to our bodies was we got industrialized. We got desk jobs and we learned how to make thousands of dollars without having to move anywhere. If you look at our stone guys, man, they were moving stuff, they were going to get things, they were gathering foods. And then we got where we don't have to do that. Now we can order Uber Eats. We can have everything brought to us. We're not doing anything. We can have our groceries brought to us. We gotta move. Anything else?
Give my hand. Hey, so listen, what we're gonna do, we got one more presentation, but we're gonna take a quick bathroom break. Brendan has to leave, so I need all my instructors to come up here real quick so I can get a photo with you all.